Sam,
Yes.
do you remember the first time that Adam wrote a lyric that you resonated with? And Adam, do you remember the first time that Sam wrote a beat or a sound that really affected you?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question.
I do remember the first, because I remember Sam was making stuff on his laptop when we were living in Dundee, and it was before I'd not heard any of it, and me and Gary were really wanting to hear it, and Sam was quite like slow about it, like, oh, you know, like it's not ready, nothing was ever ready kind of thing. And I do remember, what was it called? It was the thing you sang on. We listened to it relatively recently. It's really good. And me and Gary were both, I remember listening to it and being like, we need to fucking play this to Gary. It's like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that was probably, but that was the first thing I'd ever heard of yours, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I remember we got really drunk and did a cover of Keen, Everybody's Changing. And that was one of the first times that we were like, it was like really shit, really like dancey and shite. And we were like, this is fucking great fun. And I remember we did Easy Tiger as well, which is one of the first songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that what you were going to say?
That's for me. The Easy Tiger was my first moment of realizing it was just one of those things. Like I don't think there was necessarily like a moment where you wrote a line and I thought it was absolute magic or anything. It was just there was definitely a moment where, I mean, I've always thought you're like my favorite lyricist ever.
Oh,
even
so nice.
Because I always kind of like before it was Hyyts, I always kind of compared you to Guy Garvey, who's also my like favorite of all time, but it was as soon as you started writing songs, which was when you were like 4, I was like, this guy's got some serious welly. But I'm the same as you. When we started working together on like silly little tunes like Easy Tiger and Chainsaw and stuff like that the world will never hear.
Yeah, hopefully. That'll be for the world's best interest.
Yeah. But at the time I was like, because that was my first ever experience making music with one another, and it was with another person, it was actually like
the best thing ever.
The best thing ever.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was like that for me too. Even though I'd made music with like loads of different people, it was like, this is different.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard Easy Tiger?
We sometimes when we get really drunk play it to all our friends.
Yeah.
It's like, it's this really weird.
No one likes it. We've got skin in the game with this song.
Yeah, for sure.
We like, and whenever you make a song, I think you appreciate it a little bit more or hate it even more than whatever. But and you like, because you notice the intricacies of it, and you notice like
what you did.
Yeah, exactly. So we play it at parties when we're all absolutely steaming. And
no one really. It's quite weird. It's like 6 minutes long. And there's no beat. It's like, well, there's a beat.
7 layered guitars.
yeah. Because that was the thing we were just like playing around with. Because I was doing much more like kind of guitar-y stuff then. So it's like really, we like layered all the guitars and stuff. But there's still one chord change that I think I will die on the hill of that being that fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that's the moment. Yeah, that's the moment.
I remember we were doing it and I was like, what if we did this? And over the overdub, and we were both like, oh! Yeah. So I think we should listen to it soon. Yeah. We always say, oh, maybe we could like redo that one day with like someone, because I don't know what it was about. It was written to a tiger, wasn't it? Yeah. Because I was like, oh, Easy Tiger's a nice phrase. Why don't we call it that? Yeah. And you were like, yeah, that sounds good. And then we just wrote verses about an actual tiger. Yeah.
Because that had escaped or something like that. Right?
Yeah, it was like, I want to free you, but you're gonna bite me.
Yeah.
Was it not?
Well, I think it was weirder than that.
Was it?
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Does that still happen now? Like what you were saying there about being a nice phrase, do you still hear phrases when you're kind of out and about and pick up on them? I think that would be something I'd like to...
100%, yeah. That's where a lot of the song inspirations actually come from, is like one phrase that someone will say, or also sometimes like, because we work like in loads of different orders, it's not like a exact science how we do it. If Sam has got such a good ear for melody, and we'll sometimes like pick up a melody and then like a kind of word that it sounds like he's saying, I'll be like, oh, that's cool, and you like kind of go from there. But lyrically, that's usually where things start, is like a phrase will be like, oh, that sounds really good, or that fits there, kind of thing. Yeah.
With I think since we spoke, you've put out Lonely People and SOS as 2 singles that have come out.
Yeah.
They're quite interesting because both of them feel a little bit more kind of observational, a little bit kind of observing other people and external. Yeah. But it feels like you're using that to kind of work through your internal things that are going on. At the same time as that, does the motivation to write a song about something you're seeing in front of you differ to the motivation to write a song about something that's happening within? That's a really good question.
That's a really good question, bro.
I think, 100%. I think like the way, just I think from like a purely, I don't know, from the point of like doing it all the time, because like before lockdown especially, we were writing like 5 songs a week pretty much, and we've never, since joining the label, never really been in the position where we're writing that many songs. And purely from like a lyrical standpoint, you get bored of writing the same thing over and over again. So I think like that whole like, oh, I miss you and or we're broken up or I love you kind of thing, which are like the three kind of things that we do quite a lot, but try and put like our own twist on them. I think those are still we sometimes will always come back to that because that's pop music at its heart, but sometimes you're like, I want to write about something else, you know. And most of the time it just kind of comes out, and then afterwards you can see, oh, that's like what I was thinking I was trying to do. But yeah, it definitely is. It's much harder when you're trying to write about general things than when you're writing about your own. I feel like weirdly it's like the opposite way around. If we're writing about like The Lonely People is about growing up, or SOS is about like mental health and like being there for someone, I think weirdly that's much more personal. And like if we're writing lyrically, if I'm writing about like being in love or whatever, it's kind of like writing a character. I kind of like make up a story in my head and try and like grab details from things and stuff like that. Whereas when we're writing about those other kind of broader subjects, that's much more personal to me, like things that I've actually been through, rather than like when it comes to relationshipy songs, I tend to just kind of, apart from The Low Sound, that was based on real stuff. But a lot of the time nowadays we're writing like either a breakup song or like this song, and like I'm not breaking up with anybody, so I'm gonna have to make it up, you know. So yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of the opposite way from what we'd imagine, because you probably think that the personal songs would be more personal and then the broader ones, but it kind of tends to be that way around.
Interesting. Well, you're saying there about being a little bit more comfortable now as well, and with not being able to, you know, like write a breakup song because none of that's kind of going on anymore. Do you find you're kind of going further back then and tapping into experiences from further back in your life? If you think of something like Lonely People.
Yeah, I think that's almost definitely it. It's like because you do struggle. I think it's like that classic kind of songwriter's curse of like, right, well, do I go and mess up my life so I have something to write about? Do you know what I mean? I think so many people do that, because when you're in that, like you do naturally just write your best songs when you're going through stuff, whether it's falling in love for the first time with someone, or you know, like breaking up with someone, or you know, anything like that. So when you tend to find a rhythm in your life where things are just good, the songs are harder to access. So I think you're right. Like. Definitely started writing about. I remember like R&R at the label recently was like, you know, just recently the lyrics have gotten really existential. Maybe just like calm that down a little bit, because I was just writing songs about like what the fuck is going on with the world. But like at the same time, you had to understand as like someone that's writing a song, what people want to hear isn't always what you want to write. Like surely you've written 50 songs in the last year, but people only heard like 2 of them. So like you can't get up your own arse and just write what you want to write, because people want to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah, I noticed in quite a lot of the writing recently there was. I'm actually gonna say something serious right now. I noticed there was like a noticeable, like I could see you recalling like a timeline when we've been writing quite a lot recently, like whether it's like harking back to teenage years or like before then, or being in your mid-20s or whatever. There's been a period of writing recently where there has been a lot of like. I don't know whether you're having like an age crisis or anything like that, but
I just think of age a lot. You're right. Yeah, like getting older. I think that's.
But
just
it's
like,
nice. It is really nice. But
that's the thing as well. Is like if you sing about something really specific, like the age that you are, you're only gonna really speak to the people that are that age as well. So I understand why some people are like, oh, you maybe don't want to limit it that, because like if I'm singing like, oh, I'm 25 and this is like these are the problems I'm going through. Someone that's 19. Even if they're going through the same problems, the fact that I've said it's because I'm 25, they instantly kind of like can't relate to it as much. So I understand that, but yeah, it has gotten very chronological recently.
Chronological, that's the word that I was looking for.
Yeah, but that was it for a while, and now I'm just back on the mood of like, no, it's just good to write fucking nice pop songs about love or whatever. So it kind of, you can't make it happen. It's like when you, like what you were saying about how you've like stopped drinking for a while, and all of a sudden you just stop in your mind, and you just know that like you just feel it, right? And you couldn't force yourself to feel that way, but all of a sudden you just feel like, oh no, I'm fine with that now. It's like that. Like for a while there's just an inside something. As soon as I started to try and write a pop lyric, it would just be like no. But now I'm back in it, man.
And it's definitely like, I mean, this is a bit of a sweeping statement, but it's definitely the most like time consuming process when it comes to creating a song, so creating like a finished article. And when you put so much pressure on those short little time periods that we're given, when we work 5 days a week and hope to write 5 songs a week, cramming in a song which takes so much like history and so much like mental capacity to cram into 3 minutes, doing that 5 times a week for a month, you know, it's like
mental.
It's mental. And after that, or after like, I mean, it's difficult to say where the pressure comes from, whether you make it yourself or you're getting it from the label or you're getting it from management or whatever, but like it's easy to feel pressure to write songs. and when writing a song takes a lot of your whole fucking self,
100%.
It's a lot to ask for us, but you're like scraping the barrel for content quite a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it gets you like it tires you out in a way that I've never been tired before. Not like in a like woe is me kind of way, but like when we were doing sessions all the time, you're like, if you do 4 weeks of like solid like that, you leave because you're meeting new people every day, and like that's such a weird kind of like energy you need to bring, and it's like constant over and over again. You end up kind of like drained out of like, I can't meet anyone else, and like, it's just like, and it ends up being a kind of Russian roulette, because like you might meet a producer that would work really well with you and you get on really well with, but you've used up all your good days on other producers where it wasn't quite gelling as much, and like it's just kind of like a give and take. It really is just like a kind of lucky thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that partly what fit into SOS?
Is that what, sorry?
Partly what fit into SOS, when you're kind of speaking about the mental health aspect of
definitely.
it.
Weirdly enough, that was like I think the first week of sessions we ever had in London. We had 2 days with Tinashe, whose artist name is Rationale, who's become a really good friend of ours, and that one kind of just came out of nowhere. It wasn't like we were intending to write about that, but all of a sudden it just kind of came that. But that's definitely part of it. It's like, it's that classic thing, like as guys in their 20s, I know it affects everyone, but like from our perspective, it's like you have loads of friends that are going through stuff like that, and it's quite difficult to reach out as a man, or it's getting better, but it's really hard to be like, I don't know, sensitive and tell someone you're there for them. Yeah. Because it's just like this kind of weird, I don't know, you don't do that. So. But
on the other hand, it's much harder to actually, explain that you're suffering. It's easier to reach out than it is to
like I'll call me anytime you need kind of thing. But you say that, and then actually, having been through things like that, you don't want to call anyone. So like trying to do it in a way, or say it in a way that like, I don't know, might relate to people is nice. It's nice to write songs that don't mean anything, that sound good. It's nice to write songs that mean something. Like I'm a firm believer that like music is it's one of the last ways that you can change things, especially when like there's just so much like fucking mental stuff going on with, and a lot of the times the institutions that are there to help you actually just cover everything, yellow tape and delay things. But I think the music is something that can actually speak to people. But sometimes I think it shouldn't as well. I think like a lot of our songs, we've kind of based our thing off of like, we just want to entertain someone for 3 minutes and have, and just distract them from all this stuff rather than keep bombarding them with it. Especially because we're white guys in their 20s, but haven't really been through or experienced the things that we should really be singing about. It's definitely our place to talk about that stuff as well, but having not experienced it firsthand, it's a different kind of thing as well. So we definitely want to talk about the issues that matter to us, but at the same time also just kind of let people forget about it.
There's a line in Lonely People as well where you speak about, I think it's like not being ashamed of not knowing who you are. How do you think you have a better understanding of yourself now since that period in your life that song was kind of written about?
That's again, good question.
Yeah, you do your research. Question, I'm stumped at every single one of these questions. Like, man.
We should have done our own research into our own music. Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I wrote that lyric meaning like today as well. I think that like there's such a impetus on knowing who you are, or like kind of, especially in the modern kind of social media age of like, who you are is this package that you present to people, and it's like such a, and everyone that you look at and think, wow, I wish I was them. They always seem so like a solid entity of like, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, and I think I don't know, I think that's a really unfair pressure to put on people, because that doesn't exist. Those people are just really good at pretending that or marketing that themselves as that. So like, I think it's really important to be like, who you are changes all the time. Like I'm a different person, even on a day-to-day basis in small ways. And then if I look back like 3 years, the person that I was, it's like, it changes all the time. It's not like you're one person forever. And even like, I don't know, I think that can really get you into like some negative headspaces if you're like, oh, this is just what I do, or this is just who I am. If I react to something negatively, or if I'm the kind of person that gets stressed out in certain situations, it can bog you down, being like, I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. And actually, no, who you are is different every day. Yeah. So, no, I think if anything, I've gotten even more existential when I wrote that lyric.
How does it feel when listening back to your own music then? If you're speaking about like you're a different person every day, does each song kind of feel different in that way? Is it like a different signpost of where you were at that point in your life? Actually,
it really is. Like, you sometimes, quite often, we'll write a song and then just not realise really what it's about, or like the intricacies of what we were going through until you listen to it after, like in a year or something, and you're like, shit, that's what that was about. And I was, you know, and it's really strange the way it works. Like it just completely kind of your subconscious. Well, so also you're working on it consciously, but subconsciously, like other stuff's coming out too. So, yeah, I mean, by and large, we listen. The thing is, before a song comes out, you listen to it like 400 times.
I was gonna say this. Yeah.
You make it on the day.
Sucks the soul out of it a little bit.
Yeah, big time. And then you listen to so many different like mixes even, which are just such intricate things. And so there's usually like a sweet spot. See, when it's like just about to go off to mix and I've maybe heard it like 3 or 4 times, I like listen to it like, I'm just like can't get enough of that song. I'll listen to it like 20 times and like think about, that's when we try and think about things like visuals, like if we're going to do a music video for it, what we want that to be like. Because there's like a sweet spot of like listening to the song. I think the first time you hear, obviously with us it's different because we make the song, so you're kind of building it from scratch. But there is always one time when you're making it that suddenly it's like a bit together and you're like, you hear it kind of for the first time and you're like, this is amazing. That's one of the most important times that you can listen to it. And then I think there's a sweet spot once it's done of like 3 or 4 or 5 plays where you kind of need to do all the creative stuff, because after that it's just like you've heard it and you're listening more to like the details or things like that. So but you get so sick of hearing them, and then you have to play them all the time as well.
Yeah.
So that sounds so negative, but like, you know what I mean? It's like
no, but but it is quite easy to like. Before I was in a band or before I was anywhere near music, I probably would have, if I had to think about it, I would have thought a song here that I'm listening to right now has been made in the studio over the course of 7 or 8 hours, and that set is done. Gone off to mastering maybe.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, no, it's just so
sick,
not like that.
But it's just not like that. It takes about 9 months for a song to get made.
Yeah, no, like it literally does. The songs that we've got coming out, we've got 2 like planned January-ish and February-ish for the start of next year, and they've taken like both one almost over a year to make, you know. So like it really does take that long these days, and that's like listening to it at least 3 or 4 times a week. So like you say, I think there are times that you listen to it and you realise, oh, that's what that means, or that's what that means to me right now. But after a certain point, you're just like chucking shit against the wall.
Yeah, literally. But it can also be like, it can be such a silly process, because when you've got a song for so long and you're listening to it so much, your head and your ear becomes so like numb to it, and you start losing the ability to hear the intricacies or what made it good in the first place. So a lot of the time you end up going around completely reformatting the production, or like rewriting some of the lyrics, or rewriting some of the melodies, and then, you know, like a few days down the line you just go straight back to what you wanted in the first place, or what you had in the first place.
Yeah, no, we've done that a lot, like spent weeks and weeks on like making something different, and then just been like, yeah, no, it was better the way it was.
Yeah.
Like, so that happens too. You think yourself into corners, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to go there to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
If you do lose that kind of perspective and that clarity a little bit though, and it does just kind of become about the little details after so many listens, how do you kind of maintain confidence in your convictions when you're working on a song?
Yeah, that's a good, we don't, no, I'm only joking. I think you just trust your instincts as well.
Yeah.
Like, and there's always like maybe like every 5 or 6 listens you'll have one where you're like, oh, this, I feel it again, you know, like you emotionally connect with it again. And I wish you could just turn that off and on, but you need to just be in the right space for it. But it's just like trusting your instincts. If you still believe like the lyrics that you wrote, if you still think like the structure of the song is good and all those things, and like for us, having signed to the label, it's much more of a team effort now, which is not what we were used to before. Before it was like you make what you want and then you put it out and people like it or they don't, whatever. But now it's like there are other things that go into it as well, which means you listen to it way more times and you think about everything much more, which definitely has its pros and its cons, but that's just the same as anything.
Yeah, I guess you can just trust the amount of time that you've put into this song in the first place.
And
to lead you to this point, and the people that you're working with, and they're always telling you how great it is and stuff like that. They might be lying.
Yeah, they're all getting paid. So. Yeah,
but I think you can really just like put faith in the amount of time and work that's gone into getting that track to that point. If you've gone completely numb to it, and you can't really even hear it anymore. It sounds dramatic, but if you get to that point, I think you can just trust people around you in the time that's taken. That,
in a way, that's why gigs are missed so much, because the way that you regain that connection usually is when you play a song for the first time at a gig, and people like, you know, and sometimes we've played songs that we loved that like just don't maybe land as well, and sometimes it's like the ones that you weren't expecting or whatever. But having that like actual connection of people, like you see it in their eyes, they're like connecting with it afterwards. You say, what was that song? Next time they know the words. Like that's where you get that side of things from, is like the real emotional connection with the song and like trusting your instincts and all this stuff. And when that's gone, it's hard because you're in this like, I don't know, just like land of like listening to your own opinions and other people who are so closely involved in the project that it's quite hard to know.
Do you think self-doubt or conviction plays a bigger role in your creativity?
Oh man, questions. I think for me, self-doubt big time. We are the kind of people like very, I don't know, if you left us in a room for 2 days, we would just come up with like the most mental things, you know.
We're both like straight up severely paranoid people.
Proper think everyone's trying to kill us all the time, paranoid. But I think
I even sometimes think you're trying to kill me.
I just know that I could kill you so easily that I'm not scared.
That's why I'm scared.
No, but I think it's different because that's almost not that like think this is very generalization, but I almost think that you could roughly break artists into those two categories: ones that are driven by self-doubt and ones that are driven by conviction. Because you get some people that are just so confident in what they're doing, and their whole writing process is based off of just like knowing or thinking. I guess knowing it is thinking it strongly enough is knowing it. Like that, what they say is just the shit, and like that's how it is. Whereas for us, I think it's like a constantly like trying to best yourself, questioning is that right, you know. And I think that bleeds into the lyrics, and especially in like I think that's a lot more relatable to normal people. I think that there's like a disproportionate amount of artists who are these massively convicted people, whereas most punters who listen to the music, I think it's much more normal to like be questioning yourself and maybe not as confident in every aspect. So there's definitely like parts that we're confident over. Like I think in order to get on a stage at all, you need to be like quite confident in yourself because it's a really nerve-wracking experience. But no, I think lyrically and even music-wise, with like the kind of the genres being all over the place, that's like something that you would only. I think if you were super confident, you might just stick to one.
Yeah.
But then I guess you could say that you're confident enough to try loads of different things. But I think it just depends on what way you're looking at it. But for me, definitely self-doubt drives every one of my decisions.
Same.
Thank you very much, guys.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, man. That was beautiful.